Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the rulebook for one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make, buying a home. We're going to see how this whole industry is shaped by everything from a really simple ancient piece of wisdom all the way to a super complex web of federal law.
For so many of us, buying a home is the American dream, right? But let's be honest, it can also feel like a total minefield. It's filled with potential risks, mountains of confusing paperwork, and you have to place a whole lot of trust in people. So how do we navigate all of that? How do we make sure we get the dream without the nightmare? Well, it all starts in a place you might not expect.
Yup, the golden rule. Believe it or not, this one simple idea is pretty much the ethical bedrock of the entire real estate industry. It's the starting point for absolutely everything we're about to get into. But what does doing right actually look like when we're talking about property and mortgages? To answer that, we've got to start with ethics. Before a single law was ever written down, there was this ideal, this kind of moral compass that's supposed to guide every single transaction. So, what are ethics when you boil it all down? It's really just doing the right thing. It's that set of values that guides you when nobody's watching, and it is the absolute foundation of trust between, say, a home buyer and their agent. And this isn't just some fluffy, feel-good concept. It's just plain good business. Acting with integrity creates this powerful, positive cycle. You have happy clients, they tell their friends, and those referrals build a real sustainable career. The big takeaway here is that in real estate, having strong ethics isn't just a moral choice. It's a core business strategy. But, of course, not everyone plays by the rules. So what happens when that ethical foundation just gets completely ignored? Well, that's when you enter the shady world of schemes, scams, and just outright fraud. And the number one villain in this story is mortgage fraud. The key word you got to focus on here is intentional. This isn't an accident like a typo on a form. No, this is a calculated lie specifically designed to trick a lender into approving a loan that should have never been approved in the first place. And some of this fraud can get, well, pretty wild. Take something called an heir loan. In this scheme, criminals literally invent a fake borrower and a fake property. It's a phantom transaction created just to steal the loan money. The whole deal is literally built on nothing but air. Now, fraud can also be a lot more subtle, like with a silent second. This happens when a buyer secretly borrows money for their down payment, but they don't tell the main mortgage lender about that second loan. It's a quiet little lie that paints a totally false picture of their financial health, and it puts the entire deal at risk. This is a great example of how a totally legit practice can get twisted into a crime. I mean, we've all seen the TV shows about property flipping, right? The legitimate way is great. You buy a rundown house, you put in the work to fix it up, and you sell it for its new, fair market value. But the fraudulent version? That's when you team up with a crooked appraiser to purposely and artificially inflate the home's value, tricking a lender into financing a bad deal so you can make a quick, illegal buck. So with all these different ways to abuse the system, it becomes pretty clear that just hoping everyone has good ethics isn't enough. History shows us, time and again, that our biggest consumer protections are almost always born from our biggest crises. Remember the 2008 financial crisis? Well, right in the wake of that meltdown, the government passed a massive law called the Dodd-Frank Act. Its main job was to prevent that kind of collapse from ever happening again by creating way stricter rules for lenders and setting up a new watchdog, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB, to enforce them. And a really key part of that reform was finally creating standards for the professionals involved. The law officially defined what a mortgage loan originator, or MLO, is, and it set up national standards for them. This helped ensure that the people handling your loan application are actually qualified, licensed, and held accountable for their work. But protecting consumers isn't just about preventing financial meltdowns. It's also about a much longer, much more fundamental battle, the fight for fairness and equality in housing. And this is where we find the true bedrock of fair lending laws. And this fight, well, it wasn't won overnight. It's been a long, slow journey that really started way back with the Civil Rights Act of 1866. From there, you have these huge moments, like the landmark Fair Housing Act in 1968, that built on each other. And even today, new laws are continuing to expand those protections for all of us. So what does the Fair Housing Act actually protect people from? Well, it makes it flat out illegal to discriminate in housing based on any of these 7 protected classes.
It means you cannot be denied the chance to buy or rent a home because of your race, your religion, whether or not you have kids, or any other factor on this list, period. One of the ugliest practices these laws were created to fight is something called redlining. For years, lenders would literally take a map, draw a red line around minority neighborhoods, and just refuse to issue loans there. It cut off entire communities from the dream of homeownership. To fight this, laws like the Home Mortgage Disclosure Act were passed to force lenders to be transparent and expose these kinds of discriminatory patterns.
Okay, two other huge pillars of consumer protection you should know are ECOA and FCRA. Think about it like this. The Equal Credit Opportunity Act, or ECOA, makes sure the door to apply for credit is open to everyone on a fair basis. Then, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, FCRA, gives you the power to look through that door and make sure the information they're using to judge you is actually accurate.
So, after taking that whole journey, from a simple ethical principle to this whole maze of federal law, what's the big takeaway here? Why do all these rules actually matter so much? It really all boils down to a constant cycle. We start with this ideal, right? A system that's supposed to be built on good ethics. But when that ideal inevitably gets challenged by fraud and bad actors, we have to respond with a solution, creating strong, evolving laws that are designed to protect all of us and keep the market fair. And all of this leaves us with one final, pretty big question. We've got the ethics, and we've got the laws. But in a system this complex, who is ultimately the most responsible for making sure that dream of homeownership stays fair for everyone? Is it the government, the industry itself, or is it us, the consumers?